Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Junia Doan's The Spark. Thank you for joining us. Today, I will be speaking with Chris Welch, owner of the soon-to-be-opened Aviator Cookie Company in downtown Midland, Michigan. Welcome, Chris. Tell us about the Aviator Cookie Company, Chris.
Well, the Aviator Cookie Company is a product of the COVID-19 pandemic, really. I'm a pilot for a major airline, and I was flying European routes. And that grounded at the very beginning of the pandemic. So I ended up being home, looking like I was going to be laid off for maybe a year and a half to 2 years. After getting all my home projects done, I really wanted to do something positive out of the pandemic. I was blessed with time all of a sudden. I've been used to being on the road from anywhere from 12 to 18 days a month. Now I was home every single day. Half of the month, I'm a single father of 2 kids, and the other half of the month, I was just home. And having a business education, I've always had a desire to own a small business. Baking has always been a passion for at least the last 20 years. Something I've always thought about doing, so it just made perfect sense to change the narrative of 2020 for me and create a business.
20 years ago, what satisfactions, what drew you to baking?
Honestly, I've always enjoyed making things with my hands, whether it's, building sheds or building spare bedrooms, brewing my own beer, just creating something from start to finish has always been a real stress reliever, I guess you could call it. So for baking, it was always a way to just put my mind to something positive, create something that people would enjoy. In fact, I had a coworker at one of my old jobs that always knew when I was stressed because I would come in with baked goods.
Cute.
So it was always just rewarding.
So when you started out baking, what did you have in mind? Were you doing cakes? Were you doing pies? Always cookies?
It's been all the above, but it was definitely a cookie. It was a triple chocolate cookie that came out of the Betty Crocker cookbook my mom got me for Christmas one year. But then I've done breads, pies, cinnamon rolls, everything.
What is the satisfaction in baking? It sounds like it's a stress reliever, but on the creativity side, do you respond to experimentation? You must.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of it. It has been is to just create something new. So in this endeavor of opening the cookie store, every single recipe is my own. It's something I've changed, and obviously I didn't invent the cookie. That it's a certain set of ingredients, but learning what each ingredient does to the cookie and experimenting with just different types of cookies and making things that people haven't seen before is really enjoyable to me. It's a good
And do you
outlet.
change the flour? Did you experiment with what kinds of flour to use?
Sure, all the above. Yep, bread flour, cake flour, all purpose. I would tweak little things and see if I liked it or not.
I'm
As with
told
all
it's
the
hard
others.
to make cookies with gluten-free flour when they're a blend of this and that, pea protein or what. Did you find that challenging?
I did, and it's not something I was gonna do, but uh, my Facebook page has gotten pretty prolific since this all started, and that is probably the number one question I've been asked is if I would have gluten-free menus on the item. So I finalized 2 different gluten-free cookies to this point, but I plan on adding more because there seems to be a
That's
big
going to be
demand for
very
it.
successful. Those. Do you
Yeah.
buy machines for what you're going to be making in the store on Main Street?
Yeah, I had to buy all new, commercial size equipment, a huge oven, a huge mixer, huge fridge, freezer, all commercial grade. It's a true commercial kitchen now, where it once was a.
And what kind of licensing do you need for a food-based business like that?
Yeah, well, for the building itself, there was a lot of inspections and sign-offs required just to turn it into a bakery. And then the state, because I'm a bakery with no indoor seating, the state is the one that licensed me to be a food fixed food establishment, which I should be getting that in the next few weeks.
And what kind of staff will you need for this?
So initially, my sister is going to be the assistant manager, if you will, because well, I'm not working right now. I've been able to take my airline in an effort to reduce cost is offered to pay us for 2/3 pay just to stay at home. So I've been doing that. I have flown 2 trips in the last few months since the pandemic has started to ease. But as of right now, I've been home full time, just working on the business. But in about 5 or 6 months, I'm going to have to go back to work full time, which is me being gone 8 nights a month. So my sister will be here to manage the day-to-day business while I'm gone on those days.
And you
And then,
think
of
she can
course,
both cook and handle customers? It's a one-person operation.
well, there'll be at least 2 people there at any given time, and plan on my niece is 15 years old, and a couple other teenagers in town I know are going to help me out. Um, the way the cookie dough works will all be prepared ahead of time before I go on my trip. So in the very beginning, it'll just be me mixing up all the cookies, and then she'll just have to bake them every day.
So
And
they'll be mixed up and then unfrozen and
frozen,
cooked.
put frozen, put in a cooler. Different options for different cookies, but they'll all be ready before I leave for
Exciting.
my trips are 3 days long.
And what hours do you plan to open initially with?
Initially during the week, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'm hoping to connect with a lot of local businesses, realtors, pharmaceutical reps to cater their meetings, lunches, customer visits. So I'd like to be open by 10 for them to be able to pick those up and make their lunch meetings. And then the weekends, downtown Midland is very vibrant, as you know, live music 3 nights a week in the summertime. So I'll be open till at least 10 p.m. on the weekends throughout the summer.
And will you be selling anything to drink or any other kind of food?
Yep, we'll have milk, all different kinds of pop or soda, no matter where you're from, and coffee all day long as well, and water, of course.
And I hear you have some interesting ideas of decor.
Well, our countertop is made from a 1955 Beechcraft Twin Bonanza that had fallen into disrepair, and I got it all cleaned out and sanitized, and it went to an auto body shop and got completely refinished. So that's on my plans for this weekend, is to create the cabinet that it sits on inside the bakery, as the renovation's just wrapping up this week.
And when do you plan actually to open?
Nothing's official yet, but it's looking really good for a mid-March opening. One of the
Excellent.
Saturdays
You're
in
quite
Doan.
a creative guy, aren't you? You blend wonderful aspects, interest, originality, and mechanical follow through. I'm very impressed with that. And I like the fact that you have a business degree. I think that frames life in a concrete way. And I didn't know you had so much family to call on. Are you from Midland?
I am. I grew up in Midland. I left for college and worked in Kansas for about 6 years and came back. I've been back to Midland for probably 15 years, but I grew up here.
And what drew you to being a pilot?
Well, there's quite a history in my family of pilots. In fact, I'm the 18th pilot in my family. My my grandmother and grandfather actually met. They were both pilots. My grandmother became a pilot in 1943. They were flying their own personal airplanes around Michigan in the 40s and met each other doing that. And her father was a pilot in the 20s. So I'm a fourth generation pilot, and like I said, one of 18. So it's just something, is our family business.
The licensing has changed, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, there's
More
a lot of
levels as
licensing,
the
a lot
planes
of
got
time.
more complicated. I
Sure.
see.
Yep.
And did you apply to a local airline for your first job?
My first job was right before the September 11th attacks. So I was
Oh,
actually flying for a regional carrier, American Airlines regional carrier, and then it was quickly laid off, which is part of the motivation this time around, 20 years later. Um, I knew what it was like to lose my job back then and have no prospects. It really kind of pulled the rug from underneath me. So this time around, I was going to take charge of the situation. I didn't end up being laid off this time, but it was very much so looking that way. In fact, they told us that 4,000 of us would be laid off, and I was about 3,000 from the bottom, seniority wise.
what a condition. It's always good to have an alternate. A backup plan is useful and it's thrilling. I think opening a store right now in Midland is not only brave, but it's the beginning of big things because people will be thrilled once they can safely get out. And Midland does have a lot going on downtown, especially in the little more I can't even call it desirable because people like to ski a lot, but in the warmer weather. Um, did your family grow up with a mechanical bent? I mean, so many pilots. That's so interesting.
Yeah, many of my family members are also mechanics as well as pilots. My father being one of them. He's an aviation mechanic, and he retired. He's a retired airline pilot as well. So we've always worked on things, and I've just always used my hands to build stuff and fix things.
What values did you think were important to your parents that you learned as a child?
Well, my dad is, like I said, an airline pilot, and you know, being an airline pilot is a great career. We get to see the world. Um, it's a good living. It's rewarding, but it's very cyclical. There's really great highs and there's really low lows. So he's always instilled with me the fact that I need to have a backup plan, almost that you don't need your airline job, and then you can enjoy it a whole lot more. And that's stuck with me, and which has been the main motivation for starting a business. This whole time is
And
just to
what have
have.
you tried to teach your children?
Well, the same thing. My kids are 9 and 11. Actually, my daughter turns 9 this weekend. Um, it would have been very easy to fall into a rut when I was about to lose my job, um, and just let it happen. But I wanted to show them that in life that you have to take charge and create your own destiny. And I just wasn't happy sitting around waiting to lose my job. And I made them part of the process of brainstorming what we should do, what we should call it, what the logo should be. Um, what our logo is now is what my son came up with in his head. So he's responsible for the logo. And I just wanted to instill that into them that things just don't happen to you by chance. You have to go out and get what you want.
Certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes, we live in a time when it doesn't emphasize that as much as it should. I'm all about the little engine that could, right?
Yeah.
Think it, decide it, do it, and
Yeah.
keep doing it till you get it right.
Yep.
Um, is the downtown city supportive of you? I understand there's quite a bit of things you can call on for help, entities or
Mhm.
tell us about that in case someone else would like to take on a new business and didn't know very much.
Yeah, for me, being downtown was very important for my business model. You know, just being down there, there's people walking by, especially in the summer, all day long. Um, there's a lot going on down there, and there are a lot of downtown specific grants that are available, um, where it's rent assistance for 18 months and some signage assistance that they help, but they also help promote um, all local businesses downtown. And just having the events down there that they do and the live music brings people downtown. and really helps all of our businesses down there. So for me, a cookie business, being in a strip mall on some other side of town where they would have to drive specifically to that location to buy my cookies, I don't think I would have been had enough chance of success doing that as I am downtown, being able to capture people who just happen to be walking by and smell our cookies.
Cookies as a category seems to have endurance. I mean, we go back and forth on other things, and I'm never sure why it is. I mean, I'm a big cookie as it happens, and I like sugar and chocolate. But it's also good for strolling. No knife and fork, um, and very handy. Can you give us just a little idea of the original creative cookies you're going to offer?
Sure. Well, I have over 30 of them that I plan on selling 12 a day, 12 different varieties. And 8 to 10 of those will be cookies that are there every single day. So, what you would expect: chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, snickerdoodle, all the staples will be there every day. But then I have my cookies that I put a lot of effort and time into, and they also cost a little bit more to make. And we're really harping on that aviation theme, so they're called first class cookies. Um,
Oh,
but they
cute.
are, yeah. Um, so I have an apple pie cookie that has little bits of apple pie filling in the middle with a streusel topping on the top. I have a key
Nice.
lime pie cookie. It tastes like key lime pie. A s'mores cookie with actual marshmallows roasted on the top. There's a Nutella filled cookie. I have a cinnamon roll cookie that's made like a cinnamon roll, but it's a sugar cookie with actual cinnamon roll filling and icing on top. I have a lot of a lot of those kind of cookies. Salted caramels, probably the most popular one that I've been making. It's filled every bite in the middle of the cookie. There's a layer of caramel with caramel on top and some sea salt. Everyone seems to like that one a lot too.
All of them seem like soft cookies. Is that a regional preference?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably my preference, so that's the way I make them, and I feel like they're the hardest ones to make. So they're all soft and chewy cookies that will stay soft and they don't get hard or brittle.
Um, when I was making cookies, I kept experimenting for the most intense chocolate and the most intense chocolate chips, and now I
Hmm.
can't find the recipe. But in any case, what is your most intense chocolate cookie you're going to make? Because that's the one I'm coming to buy.
Well, there's one that is for chocolate lovers that they really like, but they have to like mint too. I make a cookie that tastes exactly like a thin mint, except it's chewy. It has a really dark chocolate flavor to it with the addition of mint. If you just want pure chocolate, I have a triple chocolate cookie that the base of the cookie is made with chocolate, and it has chocolate and white chocolate chips in it as well.
Do you use certain quality of chocolate? Does
Yeah,
the
I'm
chocolate
definitely
have
not.
lecithin in it or not?
No, well, yeah, I'd have to look at all the ingredients of the chips, but I don't add soy lecithin to any of my cookies. I don't add any preservatives to the process to make them last longer. I'll bake fresh cookies every single day.
Good for you. That's really good news. I try to not eat it if I can, avoid it. Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
and um, when you did the design of the shop, um, did you need you might had to have an architect, did you not, or not?
I'm using Three Rivers Corporation, and they're very much an in-house entity. But basically, the kitchen design is something I came up with. Um, I researched it to death, all the different types of equipment, what equipment I wanted, kitchen layout. They put all the pieces together to make sure it was up to code and followed through with it.
You have
But definitely,
tremendous drive, don't you?
I did. Well, I had a
Um,
lot of spare time, and it's with my job, there's no real connection to baking cookies, flying airplanes, but in some sense there is. I did work in the food service industry as a high school kid, as a cook, but that's my only experience with it. But when you fly a new airplane at the airline, I just recently switched to a newer airplane last year, you spend 5 to 6 weeks at school learning how to fly this new airplane and everything about it. And at some point you actually have to go fly the real airplane, even though you've never actually flown it before. You've flown the simulators, so you have to learn everything about it, prepare for every possible outcome. And that's what we do as pilots. We're trained to think of what could possibly go wrong and prevent it before it happens, because there's not a whole lot of room for error in that profession. So I've treated this business like the same. I've tried to think of every possible outcome before it happens, even though I don't have a ton of expertise in that area.
What confidence that must give you, though. I mean, to give me confidence. I always like to know the unexpected.
Yeah, and it's just, I guess, how I've lived my life because of my career, because my career is such a big part of my life.
It did well while you were an everyday pilot, so to speak. Uh, did sitting all that time bother you on those long flights to Europe?
No, it actually works out really well. I mean, there's laws there to protect us from getting tired. So when we go to Europe, we have 3 pilots, and even for the Asia flights, there's 4 pilots. So really, I'm only up in the cockpit for 2/3 of the flight, and the other third, I'm back in a first class seat taking a nap. So it goes by very, very quick, a lot quicker than it does for the passengers. For me, it's very, very quick. I mean, you get up and stretch every hour or so. It's a big
Did you ever
cockpit.
feel, they say when you're up there, radiation because of the elevation is a
Hmm.
factor. And I thought, what about the pilots? They're up there more than I am. Is any consideration given to that, or is that just an old wives' tale?
No, there is some truth to that, and for that very reason, I put sunscreen on every single day since I was 21. Because a lot of airline pilots will end up having to have little bits removed as they get older, but nothing really serious. But something to think about, and I wear sunscreen accordingly.
How do you, as a pilot, how do you, I'm told that the more complicated the plane, the more automatic it is. So mostly, while you have to know to fly it, it isn't a moment by moment thing. You sort of set it, it's like computer adjusted. But how do you keep yourself fresh in case something goes wrong?
Um,
Or did I
there's
misdescribe the process
no, it's very
of
much
flying?
true. We take off and land, and we could fly the whole time if we wanted to, but um, it's just not necessary. And the airplane does a very good job when you're just flying level of keeping it very smooth. And it would distract you from doing other things like monitoring systems, and there's stuff built into our daily flights that keep us doing things and making checks, talking on the radio. So it really goes by very, very quick. Um, it doesn't get boring.
I see it on your face, but when I read about some of the planes just going down and this and that, a few of them recent past, I'm
Hmm.
thinking, what in the design process wasn't right? Or what in the fabrication process got sloppy? Or did they miss? Is there any way to test at that level for that?
Well, it's obviously you test in the simulator and you do all that, but the most recent crashes have been really a lack of training. We're spoiled in the U.S. to have a great pipeline of well qualified pilots, but in some of the countries around the world, they don't have that luxury. They come over here to learn because they just don't have the infrastructure, and they go back and they're flying. It took me almost 20 years to get hired by a major airline. It was that competitive. I needed to get a master's degree. Um, it took that long. Where overseas, you get your pilot's license and you're immediately flying a big airliner for an airline. So I had flown for 20 years before I got behind the controls um, of a major airline, and for them, it's a year. So
Oh
we
my
had the same
goodness.
issues. Yeah, we had the same issues at our airlines here that those airplanes had, but the pilots had their training to rely on, and it didn't become a fatal issue.
So I'm height sensitive. When it gets to 9,000 feet, I get a little groggy,
Hmm.
and I understand the planes are more or less calibrated once you take off for a level in that range. Uh, But when I asked, could they make it 5,000 feet or something lower, they said it's too expensive, too difficult. Could you just explain what that means?
It's not so much that it's expensive. You just can't change what the airplane's capable of. So it's going to give you the lowest altitude it possibly can.
Oh,
It's basically the airplane's kind of like a balloon, and it's blown up like a balloon, and it's maintaining a pressure, which is somewhere around 9 psi. So it's going to give you 9 psi and whatever altitude that gives you. We can't. It's not like we can dial it up higher
oh,
and make the pressure less cabin altitude. And the cabin altitude is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5,000 feet. The
oh,
newer
really?
airplanes,
So I was wrong on that. Good to know. That
the
really
newer
is. So there's
airplanes
got to be
like the
some other reason.
yeah, the newer
Uh,
airplanes do have a higher differential, so they do have a lower cabin altitude.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for answering all my questions. I'd like to say a few things about what I've learned about you, Chris. If I could say, first of all, you have a vibrant personality in many areas, as I mentioned earlier. Imagination and creativity, willingness to prepare and see it through, willing to go probably past the just exceed expectations, which is always very nice. And you have a really a good thing that you're handy with your hands. That's not given because that means spatial relationships are probably really easy for you. And I like the fact that you take it on as not only bliss, but insurance that you learn from your family experience, all to the good. So thank you very much. Good luck. I'll be a customer early
Sure.
on. And thank everybody for tuning in. And remember, go out and do something kind for someone you know and someone you don't know. And do it every day. People need a smile, even behind a mask. See you next week.
To contact Junia, send her an email at juniadonsthespark@gmail.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadonsthespark.com. Thank you for joining us. See you next time on Junia Doan's The Spark.
Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.